As the sun slanted, Pei Ling returned to Pei's mansion. Most of the people I met along the way saw him as if they hadn't seen him, and they were busy themselves. When he was about to leave the main courtyard, a maid called him. The lady said, "The disciple of the holy sect is temporarily living in the mansion recently, and he really likes the cakes made by Wu Seiji. I beg you to ask the seventh son to go to Yunma Mountain to find more from tomorrow. When the time comes, Madam will have many rewards." I got it. The maid's attitude was contemptuous, but Pei Ling didn't take it seriously. He was very satisfied with his position in this big mansion, just like the yard he lives in now. It's remote, inconspicuous, quiet, no one cares, and of course no one is waiting. In broad daylight, no traces of killings, mouths and corpses were found. After all, it's not popular anymore, and the big guys keep a low profile one by one. Stability is king. He is very knowledgeable in this regard. After all, in his previous life, Pei Ling is a stable and healthy person. In addition, the world that I have worn in this life is not a harmonious society. It is also cultivation, weird, and monster. Although the original body's family is a bit powerful, it is a giant of the magic way that is not worthy of a bloodbath. Ming Zong's subordinates, how do they think they feel that the future is unpredictable? That's why he developed the habit of 3 times a day. Did I go for it today? Can you be more aggressive? What are the special ways to go? Relying on this cautious, fetal Pei Ling, finally in the turbulent environment of the death of his mother, the daddy, the stepmother, the jealousy of the big family, and the undercurrents of the big family intrigue, he has grown steadily to the present. Well, there is also a traverser welfare developed secretly. System. Entering the small courtyard where he lives alone, Pei Ling immediately locked the door. After rigorously inspecting all doors and windows tightly and confirming that no one had entered the room, and there was no eavesdropping monitoring, he secretly breathed a sigh of relief and suppressed his excitement. The mood, calling out in the mind, "I have enough spiritual stones to activate, now activate it immediately." Ding dong! Accompanied by the crisp sound, a translucent panel that only he can see suddenly appeared in front of him. Name, Pei Ling. Race, Terran. Sex, male. Age, 18. Identity, an offshoot of the Pei family in Luquan City. Realm, the second level of Qi training period. System status, inactive. A neutral voice without any emotion sounded in Pei Ling's mind, and he confirmed at a glance, sufficient spirit stone is detected to activate the system. May I ask the host, whether the system is allowed to absorb it immediately to activate the system? Pei Ling took a deep breath, yes. Since he was a child, he tried every means to deduct the 300 low-grade spirit stones he had saved from his practice, and he was instantly swept away by invisible power. Bright flames burst out around the panel in front of the suspension, and the characters flickered wildly. After a while, the panel became clear again, and the sound of the system seemed to bring a hint of joy. The intelligent comprehension system will serve you wholeheartedly, with one-click hosting, intelligent upgrades, automatic training, preventing accidents, worry-free demons, and making you soar. Dream. Immediately, the at the bottom of the panel quietly changed, and it was quickly replaced with a new interface. The new interface has 5 options and the final. Pei Ling has been in a stable mood for many years, and it is rare to have a hint of excitement. He couldn't wait to use his mind to press first. Please choose the exercise method you want to practice. The sound of the system sounded again, and then the 3 characters forged Bonju appeared in the system interface. This is Pei's family practice method and the only one he can choose now. Pei's bone calcining art is divided into 3 stages: iron bone, fine bone, and jade bone. The iron bone is 10%, invulnerable to swords and guns, fists are like heavy hammers, palms are like blades, and the flesh can give birth to tigers and wolves. It's just that, after all, this technique comes from the magic door, and the cultivation process is full of strong magic style. Every time you practice, you must break and smash the whole body bones, and then use the method of forging bones to quench the broken bones, and then combine them again to achieve the purpose of improvement. The xingxing is not tenacious enough, and often the first time you practice bone calming ju, you will simply lose out because you can't stand the pain of crushing your body and bones. What's more, some people with poor aptitudes practice, and even suffer a life of pain and death in the middle. It can be said that every cultivator who is capable of forging the bones and cultivating has a talented character is the best choice. Of course, this is just a conventional practice method. If it is possible to take it with the bone-quenching pills, not only will the pain be greatly reduced, but it will also be able to get twice the result with half the effort. However, the bone-tempering pill can only be refined by the heavy Ming zone. With the power of the Pei family, only 10 bone-tempering pills can be allocated each year. As the pillar of the family, the patriarch of the Pei family took 5 of course, the 3 elders each took 1, and the ancestor 1. It was the turn of Pei Ling, a side child, that he hadn't even seen what the bone-tempering pill looked like so far. Therefore, in the case of having never used a bone-quenching pill, Pei Ling has been able to cultivate half-length iron bones for so many years, and he is already extremely talented and determined to cultivate to the second level of the Qi training period. Under normal circumstances, a complete training of bone calming ju, without the cooperation of bone quenching pill, even with many medicinal materials for nourishment, takes at least 3 months. If you are too eager, your body will not be able to bear it. Backfired. Pei Ling rubbed her hands excitedly. However, I have a system now. He desperately wanted to know the training effect of this system, so after choosing the exercise method, he immediately clicked on. Originally, he planned to choose a shorter time to experience, but the top option is, then below. Pei Ling is speechless. Until the bottom, there is a. This made Pei Ling breathe a sigh of relief. He immediately chose this, and then clicked. Intelligent comprehension system will serve you wholeheartedly. After the panel flashed twice, it gradually faded, and the system tone returned to the previous glance. 1-click hosting, intelligent upgrade. Now start hosting training. Intimate reminder, during the training, the host will lose body control, please don't panic. Immediately, Pei Ling felt a slight dizziness, and then, an invisible force was injected into his body, quickly arranging his body into a training posture. Immediately afterwards, the danshan was slightly hot, and the forging bone tactics automatically operated, and the bones all over his body stabbed, and then began to split a little bit, and under the operation of the forging bone tactics, high-speed vibrations and rapid metabolism, and his whole body pores opened, many in his body all the dirt was discharged in this process. The entire cultivation process was smooth, skillful, and even conveyed a sense of mellowness and freedom. Compared with every practice in the past, you must divide your heart into 2 ways. A slight negligence is a serious injury and death. System hosting can be described as enjoyment. This system is simply too suitable for his kind of salty fish. It is simply a work of conscience in the golden finger. Pei Ling was delighted, but at this moment, the system suddenly made a ding-dong, and the hidden panel resurfaced. The lack of cultivation medicine pill quenching bone pill was detected. Please wait. Please wait. Please wait. Peeling. This System 1 key training actually needs to quench the bone pill? Where is he going to get the bone quenching pill for the system? Ding dong. The system beeps again, and the text on the panel also changes. After the analysis is completed, the system will give away 10 bone-quenching pills for free. So good? Pei Ling couldn't help but feel refreshed. Just when he was full of expectations, his body suddenly stood up. Peeling. His body walked toward the door simply and neatly. Peeling. He was stunned for a while, and then watched his body rush out of the small courtyard at a speed far surpassing his current cultivation base, like an afterimage, and rushed into the Biwa courtyard of the Pei family after a few breaths. At this time, Pei Ling finally reacted, Biwu Academy. That is the residence of the disciples of Chongming sect. The entire Pei mansion must be cautious and distinguished guests. I am. System. Stop. This is not where I can come. Pei Ling hurriedly yelled in his heart. As a demon giant, the style of Zongmingzong has always been tyrannical and brutal. Regardless of the fact that Pei Mansion is so powerful in this Luquan city, it is in the eyes of Chongmingzong that the entire Pei Mansion is an ant. He has heard a lot of rumors like this. The young master of a certain family was killed overnight because he saw the disciples of the Chongming sect, and the skins of the whole clan were peeled off and hung on the tree. The disciple of the Chongming sect fell in love with the young lady of the XX family, and the XX family did not take the initiative to send the young lady to the other side's door. The whole clan was sucked up by that disciple of the Chongming section. The most frightening thing is that everyone, including Lu Quanchen, believes that it is not the disciples of the Chongming sect that are at fault, but the aristocratic families. As for the reason? Very simple, weakness is the original sin. The weak and the strong eat, the righteous and righteous he natives on the Chongming sect, after generations of domestication, regardless of whether they joined the clan, most of them have accepted the three views of the Chongming sect from their bones, and are accustomed to taking it for granted. One can imagine how treacherous this Biwu courtyard is at present. Seeing that the system was indifferent, Pei Ling's entire body of consciousness was about to split. Fuck me, I don't want you to practice, stop. Stop. Stop it. You stop, do you hear? May feel his collapse. The system made a thoughtful ding-dong. The intelligent comprehension system will serve you wholeheartedly, with one-click hosting, and intelligent training. Pei Ling was about to vomit blood. He was completely unable to control his body now, and could only watch the system manipulating him to the upper room on the west side of Biwu courtyard. Zheng Jingshan, a disciple of the Chongming sect, lives here now. Two disciples of the Chongming sect came to Luquan city this time, and were invited by Zongzi Pei Hongnian to settle down in Biwu courtyard. One of them has never shown up in front of others, and his appearance, cultivation, and temperament are not known. But this Zheng Jingshan, with a profound cultivation base, is as outstanding as his cultivation base, and is his fame. Rumor has it that in order to compete for the position of the master of the inner gate, the other party did not hesitate to kill the father of the body, extract the soul and refine the soul, and refine a bloodline supernatural power that is far more powerful than usual, which shines in the Chongming sect intersect grand competition. Become famous in World War I. Boom. The next moment, Pei Ling watched as she kicked the door of Zheng Jingshan's room, and then walked in. I'm gonna. Pei Ling only felt that his eyes were dark, and roared in her mind, system. Are you particularly dissatisfied with Lao Zi, want to change the host? He turned his mind crazily, hoping to regain control of his body, but the system was indifferent, and his struggle was obviously useless. At this moment, Pei Ling recalled the fear of being dominated by various artificial intellectual disabilities in his previous life. The system instructed his body to walk quickly around the screen at the door, and inside was a very spacious room with gorgeous furnishings. The carved moon cave door leading to the inner room was hung with a hanging bead curtain, which was shaking slightly at this moment, making a pleasant sound. Yes. Pei Ling still wanted to persuade the system to calm down, and suddenly felt that someone was staring at him at the door. Zheng Jingshan? Pei Ling couldn't help but feel a shock. But soon he realized that something was wrong, because there seemed to be more than one person watching from behind. And if Zheng Jingshan was there, with the temperament and cultivation of this high-minded disciple, I am afraid that Pei Ling would have passed away on the spot when he just kicked in. After all, he traveled from a rich, strong, democratic, civilized, and harmonious society to this world, and relied on perseverance to cultivate the bones to the point of half-length iron. Although he was caught off guard by the mentally disabled system, he was in a critical moment, but quickly calmed down. Come down, system, you pay attention what's behind you. The system did not respond to his reminders, and controlled his body to move quickly to a corner. It opened one of the several boxes randomly scattered on the ground with a clear goal, took out a porcelain bottle from it, and poured out 10 grey-white ones in a neat manner. Elixirs. Obviously this is the bone-quenching pill. Ding dong. Give 10 bone-quenching pills, the gift is complete. The intelligent system continues to practice for you. Do you call this a gift of bone-quenching pill? Isn't 1,000 meters giving people ahead? Pei Ling is about to vomit blood. Immediately afterwards, a more terrifying scene happened. His body didn't mean to leave at all. He just turned around, walked to a futon not far away, assumed a cultivating posture, and swallowed all 10 bone-tempering pills. Start to move the bone-forging decision. This position is just right for Pei Ling to see the door, and the system doesn't even close the door. Pei Ling. MMP. MMP. Did you hear the system? MMP. But soon, he had no time to manage the door, because he found many sources of eyes looking at him, the screen at the door. The translucent screen is like a secular shark, embroidered with curly ting-ting, lifelike bells, ringed with fat and thin, full of grace, or holding a fan, or flapping a butterfly, or embracing a pipa, or plucking the strings, or folding branches the raccoon, different postures. It's just that no matter what they are doing, their eyes are focused on Pei Ling. Under normal circumstances, being able to be noticed by beauties, especially if one of these beauties is picked out at random, is a beautiful country in a beautiful country, and no straight man will refuse such a beautiful blessing. The problem is that these beauties are not normal. Although they are embroidered characters, the feeling of being closely watched by real people is just like the essence. Even if Pei Ling couldn't control his body now, she felt a horror from the heart. Zongming Zong. His heart sank, and the demon Dao sect was really secretive. Although I don't know what's wrong with this screen, it's obviously not good. If it were himself, he would have already turned and left at this moment. The farther he went, the better. No, if he knew the gift method of the mentally retarded system, he would not give it a chance to control himself in Zhang Jingshan's room. Now I can only count on Zhang Jingshan to be ferocious. Since he would be invited by Pei Hongnian as a guest, he would give his fellow juniors a little bit of face. When people are not in the room, they will leave certain means to restrict this screen, so as not to accidentally hurt the people in the Pei mansion. Thinking of this, Pei Ling turned her mind back into her body. He discovered that after taking the bone-tempering pill, the speed of the bone-forging Ju was obviously more than 10 times faster than before. Moreover, the rooms used by Pei's family to entertain distinguished guests are all equipped with special formations, which are far more aura than Pei Ling's own yard. He can clearly perceive that his cultivation base is growing at an unprecedented speed. Time passed bit by bit. Pei Ling was gradually immersed in the pleasure of increasing strength, especially with the sound of gold and iron. The whole body musculoskeletal trembled, the pores were opened, and a layer of dark red dirt like grease after expelling. The next moment, Pei Ling felt that he had suddenly broken through a level, and he seemed to have broken free of some kind of restraint, with inexhaustible strength. It seems that as long as he wants, one punch can punch a big hole in the stone wall of the room. Ding dong! At the same time, Pei Ling regained control of her body, and a system prompt sounded from her ear. This training has been completed, thanks to the host for using the intelligent training system, One Key Hosting, soaring worry-free. Looking forward to your sharing of your practice evaluation. Please give 5-star praise if you are satisfied. The panel emerged, 5 familiar stars, waiting for the host to choose. Third level of Qi training, the iron bones are completed. Pei Ling was shocked, and even forgot that he was not in his room now, and his face was shocked. He began to beat his body at the age of 5. At the age of 8, he passed the family veterans qualification test and was given a bone-building exercise, and soon he became a monk with the first level of Qi training. In terms of talent, he is regarded as one of the most outstanding children of the Pei family's generation, no worse than Pei Hongnian. It's just that the collateral's resources are scarce, and he was suppressed by his stepmother. In addition, the practice of forging the bones is too cruel. He has to build up spirit stones to activate the system. The whole process of cultivation is reluctant to use nourishing medicinal materials. Get over it. Therefore, it took a full 10 years to reach the second level of Qi training 2 months ago. This is already considered to be an upper middle level among the same age in Luquan City. And now, after only a few hours of training with this system, did he cast all iron bones from the half-length iron bones of the second Qi training layer, breaking into the third Qi training layer? It's no wonder that the predecessors said that it's cool to open it for a while, and it's always cool to open it all the time. At this moment, Pei Ling clenched her fist slightly, feeling the power surging up and down all over her body, and suddenly felt that the system didn't seem so horrible anymore. But soon, the shadowy gaze on the screen made him react. Pei Ling frowned, he didn't think much, and quickly got up and left. When he went out, passing by the screen, although he tried to keep his distance, he caught a glimpse of the beauties in the screen. Several of the beauties in the screen still stretched out their hands, seeming to want to pull his robes. Fortunately, they just ran into the invisible barrier with their arms just 1 foot out of the screen, and they let out a soft cry, as if they were eating pain, and they retracted very unwillingly. Although there is no way to do anything to Pei Ling, the eyes of all the beauties have never left Pei Ling. Until Pei Ling overcame the wall and exited the Biwu Academy, he could still feel that hundreds of people were quietly and intently looking at his back. I don't know why, although this feeling of being watched gradually disappeared after Pei Ling walked away, he still vaguely felt that he seemed to have caused a big trouble. Pei Mansion can't stay, you must leave immediately. Pei Ling's heart sank, ignoring the worries about the screen. The system's gift method was too exhausting. Although he was not smashed by Zhang Jingshan on the spot, this person is a master of magic. Who knows if there is any way to discover his infiltration and theft? Continue to stay in Pei's mansion. Once Zhang Jingshan is in trouble, he will have no resistance. The urgent task is to flee thousands of miles immediately to avoid the next killing. After reciting the Gozhi Ju silently, Pei Ling gave the system a 1-star bad review and decided to go back and quickly pack up and run away. However, after he returned to his yard and packed his luggage at the fastest speed, before he could leave Pei's mansion, he was chased by the young man and shouted, "Seventh son, the master wants all the sons and ladies to go to the main hall now." Why did the patriarch suddenly let us go to the main hall? Pei Ling frowned. He was just a side kid, or the kind that his father didn't care for his mother. Since childhood, he did not see the patriarch more than one hand. Go back to the seventh son. Xiaoxi rushed to inform the next master, turning around and hurriedly said, it was Master Zheng who came back from the outside and asked the patriarch to do this. You should go as soon as possible. Master Zheng seems to be in a bad mood. Good. Pei Ling's heart trembled, and quickly calculated the feasibility of continuing to abscond. Unfortunately, the survival rate is basically 0. Because although he had just been promoted to the 3rd level of Qi training and was able to fight the Liger, not to mention the disciples of the Chongming sect, even the top and bottom of the Pei Mansion could easily arrange him. The key is that Pei Mansion's family rules are strict and the patriarch summoned him, but if a mortal is in the mansion and within a stick of incense, there will be a master immediately to check and deal with it. Especially this time the convening was for Zheng Jingshan. In order not to lose face in front of Kong Mingzong Jiaozu, Pei's actions would only be more agile. He is running away now. It is estimated that he can't even get out the door of Pei's house. Don't panic. Pei Ling calmly analyzed, if Zheng Jingshan knew that I had entered his room to steal the bone tempering pill, I am afraid that the Pei Mansion would have sent someone to arrest or even kill on the spot instead of just sending a mortal servant to inform. I come over. Thinking of this, he stopped the young man who had already walked for a while. Master Zheng went to the main hall as soon as he came back. Didn't go back to Biwa courtyard to rest. No. Xiaoxi shook his head, and urged him, "Seventh young master, please go over quickly, don't let the immortal master wait in a hurry. Otherwise, the patriarch will probably not be merciless." Pei Ling quickly weighed, "Okay, I'm going now." After a while, Pei's mansion was in the main hall. Patriarch Pei Xian was sitting in danger, Zongzi Pei Hongnian stood by his side, and the three elders sat down with a solemn look. In the seat of the guest of honor, there was a handsome, resolute and handsome young man, and it was Zheng Jingshan, the inner disciple of the Chongming sect. Pei Ling entered the house to see the paternal master, and Pei Xian waved his hand at will, motioning him to retreat to the side like the others, waiting for instructions. From beginning to end, no one cared about him. This indifference finally allowed Pei Ling to regain a little sense of security as a person in the middle of nowhere. Obviously, Zheng Jingshan still doesn't know about Biwu Academy. This is great. Pei Ling breathed a sigh of relief and quickly adjusted her expression. Like the surrounding Pei's children, she looked at the top 5 with curious and awe-inspiring eyes. The cultivation realm of this world is divided into the Qi training period, the foundation building period, and the alchemy period. Among them, the Qi training period is subdivided into 1 to 9 layers. After the 9 layers, there is the foundation building. The 3 later stages, above the later stage of foundation building, is the formation of alchemy. As for the realm above the pill formation, there is no record in Pei's family studies. After all, Deluquan City didn't even have a foundation period, and the number 1 master on the bright side was Pei Xian, who was for the 7th level of Qi refining. Zongzi Pei Hongnian, who was highly anticipated by his family and spent a lot of resources, sent him to the outer door of the Chongming zone. However, the 2 disciples of the Heavy Ming zone, Shan Dan Zheng Jingshan, are still young, but they are already in the middle stage of foundation construction. In other words, as long as Zheng Jingshan is willing, one person can slaughter the entire Luquan city. Therefore, it is no wonder that this person did not dare to neglect the Pei family. Pei Ling was thinking about the other party's purpose of summoning Pei's children, and suddenly noticed that someone not far away was looking at him hostilely. When he looked subconsciously, he saw Pei Tuhan, his half-brother who was half-brother in this life, staring at him viciously. Is Lao Zi's approach today? Pei Ling was puzzled. Although his relationship with this cheap brother has never been very good, as he was marginalized in the family, the stepmother and son consciously stepped him on the soles of their feet. He usually ignores him when he comes in and out. Why is there a clear hostility now suddenly? Pei Ling's mood suddenly became heavy, or did he drift after activating the system without knowing it? He was carefully reflecting on his various performances during this period of time, whether there was any violation, but he saw a small servant approaching Pei Xian. After whispering to his ear, Pei Xian nodded slightly and coughed slightly. The hall was suddenly silent. I saw Pei Xian say to Zheng Jingshan in a very respectful manner, "Friend Zheng, the children of our family are already here, please don't hesitate to give your orders." Zheng Jingshan opened his eyes expressionlessly, scanned the crowd at will, and said indifferently, "The traitor Wu Tingzi recently fled to Yuanmao Mountain, and now his whereabouts are uncertain. You will immediately start searching for Wu Tingzi. If you find Wu Tingzi's trail, you will be rewarded 50 bone tempering pill. If there is no problem, you can start now." After listening to this, the children of the Pei family in the whole hall looked different, and they all subconsciously looked at the head of the family, the son of the family, and the elder of the family. Pei Xian was embarrassed, and coughed dryly, "Friend Zheng, that Wu Tingzi was once a noble sect, after all, and a direct disciple of Elder Luo. Pei heard that his cultivation has reached the 7th level of Qi training, and the strength of my family's children is weak. Don't worry." Zheng Jingshan said faintly, "Wu Tingzi is seriously injured right now, and his cultivation level is not 1. Even a monk who has just entered the Taoist path can take it down. He is now a bereavement dog, and he will never take the initiative to show his head. Pei Xian breathed a sigh of relief, and looked around the whole group of children. I heard you clearly? Who dares to neglect the major event of fellow Zheng Daoist? Don't blame the patriarch's ruthlessness. As he said, Pinju showed a figure in the hall, a man with a gloomy face and a stern look. He introduced, "This is Wu Tingzi, a traitor to the holy sect. If you find his trace, don't delay, and send a signal for help from the clan quickly. Fellow Daoist Zheng will arrive and capture him by then." A bunch of Pei's children said in unison, "Follow the orders of the patriarch." Pei Xian nodded, "Don't leave now." Seeing that everyone else had already rushed to quit, Pei Ling quickly pretended to be agitated and wrapped up in the crowd and went out. Then he moved his steps and walked quietly to the front of the crowd. He had already thought about it, and when he left the city, everyone would go to Yunma Mountain. It was his chance to leave quietly and escape thousands of miles away. Anyway, the important things have been taken, and you can run away at any time. Otherwise, Zheng Jingshan still doesn't know that someone broke into his house and stole something, so he will go back and have a look. He must still be cold. Watching the many Pei's children leave, Pei Xian smiled and said to Zheng Jingshan, "Friend Zheng, our mansion has recently received some spiritual tea. I don't know if fellow Daoists can have a taste of yaxing." "No need." Zheng Jingshan stood up and said indifferently, "I have to go back to Biwu Academy. Patriarch Pei is kind, and I will get it later." He hurried to Biwu courtyard, but instead of going to the house where he lived, he went to a more concealed abode behind him. The appearance of the abode is elegant, and there is a string of wind chimes hanging under the eaves, swaying with the wind. Lining the surrounding thatched eaves are drooping, and the green bamboo is bleak. Just look closely and you will find that the wind chimes are made up of skulls, on which countless illusory human faces are twisted and struggling, and they roar silently. It is Zheng Jingshan that has already built the foundation, and if he glances carefully at this moment, he can't help but feel dizzy. He hurriedly kept his mind, turned his gaze to the ground, and paid a respectful salute outside the abode. He hadn't spoken yet. There was already an extremely cold voice inside, "Has anyone found?" In response to senior sister, it has been determined that Wu Tingzi fled to Yunma Mountain, and the other disciples of Elder Luo have been put to death, and the secret code of 6 desires must be in his hands. Zheng Jingshan said hurriedly, "I have let Pei's family." "Trash!" He was interrupted before he finished speaking, and the people in the room scolded coldly, "I don't have so much time to spend here. Don't be idle, look for it together. You can't see 6 desires in 3 days. Secret code, this seed has drawn your astral refiner." Zheng Jingshan's complexion changed drastically, and he knelt down immediately, "Yes." For a moment, seeing that the people in the room had no more instructions, he got up and exited cautiously. "When I got outside, I only felt that a layer of cold sweat was already on my back." He glanced sideways at his house, hesitated, did not dare to delay, did not even say hello to Pei's family, so he hurriedly left and went straight to Yunma Mountain. At the same time, Peeling took advantage of the large group of troops passing through a forest, and got away smoothly. Yunma Mountain is in the north of Luquan City. He left the woods, recognized the direction, and headed southwest. This is a wilderness. After passing through, it is the official road, which can lead to several other cities. He has already thought about it. Go to the nearest city first. If he hasn't been arrested after he arrives, he will pretend to be dressed up, and quickly find a long-distance team to mix in, and how far he can go. Although the bone forging Jew did not emphasize speed, after the iron bone was made, his body was full of strength, and the pace was naturally much quicker than before. Pei Ling was worried that Zheng Jingshan had discovered the scene of Biwu Academy, so she didn't dare to neglect, so she ran for more than an hour and saw that there was no one around, so she was slightly relieved. But soon, he felt something was wrong. Someone is staring at him. Who? Zheng Jingshan? No, it won't be Zheng Jingshan. This person has a domineering personality, and if he has caught up, he will only show up directly instead of hiding in secret. As for the others, the rest of the Pei mansion should be thinking about getting the 50 bone-tempering pills promised by Zheng Jingshan, instead of rushing to hunt down themselves. At first, Pei Ling wondered if he was too nervous and had an illusion, but soon, his face changed. He found that the line of sight to spy on himself was increasing. From the beginning, Ruiruao's 1 or 2 dao, quickly developed into a substantive gaze in all directions, staring at him quietly. This feeling. Peeling suddenly thought of the screen in Zheng Jingshan's room. His heart sank suddenly, and he looked around vigilantly, only to find that there was nothing in his sight. But that kind of substantive gaze became more and more obvious. Even in the dark, as if he had been surrounded, there was something in all directions, approaching little by little. Pei Ling's face was pale, his current cultivation base is too low, and his knowledge is not enough, he doesn't know how to deal with this situation at all. After quick thinking, he decided to move on. After all, going back is a dead end. If it's just this feeling of being watched, it's a big deal as if nothing had happened. However, Peeling continued to run for a while, and suddenly felt a little cold. This is something that he has never seen again since he invigorated the qi and opened the pulse. He has never seen it again after he embarked on the path of cultivation, especially when he is still running at full speed now, his whole body is boiling with blood, why would he feel cold? Peeling knows that he is not good, but is helpless. Soon, the feeling of icy cold spread throughout his body, not to mention the fact that the whole person is like falling into an ice cellar, and even his consciousness is a little heavier. Where is the problem? Pei Ling knew that he couldn't let it go any longer, he suddenly stopped, thinking about the whole process quickly, there must be a problem with the screen. However, not to mention that Zheng Jingshan placed restrictions on it to prevent accidental injury to the people in Pei's mansion. He was said that he was controlled by the system last night and practiced generously in front of the screen for so long. After returning to the yard, he went to the main hall. There was no abnormality until some time after he left the crowd. Why are you looking for it now? System, I want to practice. Feeling that his thinking is getting slower and slower, Pei Ling's sense of crisis in his heart soars, he suddenly flashed his inspiration, and called out in a deep voice, choose bone forging. Smart duration. 1-click hosting. Ding dong. The intelligent comprehension system is here to serve you wholeheartedly. In his mind, the sound of the system's machinery is so beautiful at this moment. As soon as the system took over his body, Pei Ling seemed to relax all at once. Symptoms of chills, sluggishness, etc. disappear quickly. He couldn't help but let out a long sigh of relief, sure enough. He practiced in front of the screen for so long last night, and the reason there was nothing bad besides the gaze that he felt was not because the screen did not attack him at the time, but because he was cultivating. No, maybe it's because his body was operating by the system at that time. Either way, at least he is safe now. Familiar pain came, and while Pei Ling's hanging heart was let go, he also more eagerly hoped to fly far away, and it is best to leave the realm of Kongmingzong completely. What a special demon sect is the demon sect, and anything from any disciple is so underworld. Thinking that someone has been diligent and conscientious for so many years, he almost died. With the practice of bone forging judgment, Pei Ling felt that his whole body had come back to life again, and even the sound of broken bones was particularly pleasing to the ear. But not long after, the system made a squeaky ding-dong and said mechanically, the host's blood qi loss has been detected. If you continue to practice forging the bones, it will cause irreversible damage. Ding-dong. If the host is detected to lack qi and blood pills, the system will give 3 qi and blood pills for free. Peeling. Peeling, wait. His thoughts were still in his mind, the system had already operated his body to stop practicing, stood up suddenly, his heels whirled, suddenly turned 360 degrees, and went straight to Yuanma Mountain. Yuanma Mountain, a deep crypt. Cough, cough, cough. Accompanied by a heart-piercing cough, the man sitting paralyzed against the wall suddenly spit out a large mouthful of black blood, and immediately, the already weak breath was defeated again. He took a few violent breaths, as if he had accumulated some strength, and then tremblingly opened a jade bottle, and hardly pushed the mouth of the bottle to his lips. But before he had time to pour out the pill, his internal organs convulsed, and the man couldn't control his cough again, causing the jade bottle to fall to the ground. When he finally calmed down, he was about to touch the bottle not far away. Suddenly his movements became stiff, and he suddenly raised his head to look at the dark corridor. Before long, a mouse flew past. The man looked alert, and calmly buckled a jet-black projectile in his hand. For a while, when the surroundings were still calm, he gradually relaxed, stuffing the projectile back into his sleeve, and his eyes showed a very resentful look. Chongming Zong, hee, I didn't expect Wu Tingzi to fall to such a point. I'm like a frightened bird. He picked up the jade bottle with some difficulty, but didn't take it immediately. Instead, he rubbed the bullet in his sleeve, his eyes flickered, and he whispered to himself, if the master had successfully converted the exercises, I will wait for my disciple Yan Hui So. It's a pity that I started too late and my strength is low. I am afraid it will be difficult to get out now, otherwise. Wu Tingzi's complexion changed, and he sighed secretly, and raised the jade bottle. Just as the pill in the bottle was about to slide down, a figure suddenly rushed out of the tunnel. Fuck! Pei Ling stared at the faint monk in front of him. This seems to be the traitor they are looking for. There was no response from the system, and he snatched the jade bottle from Wu Tingzi's hand neatly, and immediately poured out 3 qi and blood pills, stuffed them all into the mouth, and threw the bottle into the corner at will. Immediately afterwards, the same operation as last night appeared. The system did not intend to leave as soon as possible, manipulating Pei Ling's body to walk to the open space not far away, and sat down cross-legged. Ding dong! The qi and blood pill is finished. The system will continue to practice for you. Pei Ling! Damn, you still coming? There was no one in Zhang Jingshan's room last time. This time the suffering master was right in front of him, and he was staring at Lao Tzu. Okay. Wu Tingzi was surprised at first. After all, he was in a dangerous situation at the moment, and he was extremely alert. Even the passing of a mouse made him vigilant. The speed of the arrival was so fast that he could not react, so that his first thought after the pill was robbed. It was fear and surprise, not anger at all. But after the system began to practice, Wu Tingzi found that the young man in front of him was just a little monk who practiced qi in the 3rd level. After observing for a while and confirming that he didn't look away, Wu Tingzi almost died on the spot. The fierce emotions affected the injury again, and coughed violently for a while. Wu Tingzi took a deep look at Pei Ling and did not act immediately, but coughed while coughing. Climbing hard towards the jade bottle in the corner. System. Can we kill him first and then practice? Kill first, hurry up. I will give you 5-star praise immediately after killing. It's okay if you don't kill people, and now you can get 5-star praise for running away. Pei Ling vomited blood. You are mentally retarded. Don't practice anymore. The system is indifferent and concentrates on training. Therefore, Pei Ling could only watch Wu Tingzi take a rest 3 times before finally crawling to the side of the jade bottle, opening the cork tremblingly, and swallowing the remaining qi and blood pill. After that, Wu Tingzi managed to turn over and sit up, and after casting a grudge at Pei Ling, he also started practicing. Pei Ling's heart sank. He saw that Wu Tingzi was seriously injured. It is not so much that he is practicing at the moment, it is better to say that he is dissolving the medicine, so as to temporarily suppress the injury. And what to do after suppressing the injury, do not ask. After a while, the system training was not over yet, but Wu Tingzi opened his eyes first, smiled sadly at Pei Ling, and immediately picked up a stone from his side and threw it at him. Peeling, system. Boom. The next moment, there was an extra bag on his head. At the same time, the system, ding dong. An external attack was detected. This practice is over. Thanks to the host for using the intelligent cultivation system, one-click hosting, soaring worry-free. Looking forward to your sharing of training evaluation. Please give 5-star praise for satisfaction. Yes, the system escaped. Peeling. Boy, I don't know if you are pretending to be stupid or really stupid. After testing, Wu Tingzi breathed a sigh of relief and sneered, anyway, since the meeting is predestined, Wu will give you a ride today. Before he finished his words, his fingertips suddenly lit up with a little green light. System, why wait for me? Pei Ling didn't have time to pay attention to the evaluation panel floating in front of him, and quickly set up his arms and crossed his chest to protect the vitals. The next moment, the green light flashed and hit Pei Ling's left arm. Pei Ling instantly felt like she had been hit by a speeding and overloaded truck. A heart-piercing pain came from her left arm, and her body flew out uncontrollably. Boom! Pei Ling hit the rock wall in the cave without fighting back, and the whole rock wall was sunken. Wow! His throat was sweet, and he couldn't help but vomit a big mouthful of blood. He was dizzy for a while. There was no pain in the whole body. The internal organs seemed to be displaced. If it hadn't been practiced for many years, it would be greatly improved. For the patience and endurance of the pain, I am afraid that I have fainted on the spot. Cough cough cough, not dead? Cough cough cough. Wu Tingzi's expression changed when he saw Pei Ling's miserable condition. While coughing violently, he looked at Pei Ling suspiciously. This kid is not right. Although he was seriously injured, he was a disciple of the Kongmingzong elder after all, and his strength in the later stage of Qi training is not comparable to that of ordinary cultivators of the same level. Even if it was a 5-poison finger that was forcefully issued, facing a monk in a small place like Luquan City, who was still a small 3rd-level Qi training, he should directly penetrate his arms, penetrate his heart, and kill him with a single blow. At the moment, Pei Ling looked terrible. Observing carefully, the main injury was only a large hole in the front left arm that was toxic burns, exposing some bones. The other places looked terrible, but in fact, it didn't hurt his life. Wu Tingzi seemed to have thought of something. A light purple flashed across his pupils, his eyes moved to the extreme, and he could see the details of the exposed bones instantly. This action made his pale face suddenly red, and immediately, the corners of his mouth oozed out blood stains. But he didn't care at all at this moment. Instead he exclaimed, "The best iron bone! Forging bone judgment comes from the Chongming sect, and of course he is no stranger to someone like him who had been personally passed on by the elders of the Chongming sect. However, there is one thing that even the Pei family does not know, that is, the iron bones, essence bones, and jade bones cultivated by the forging bone Jew are classified into ranks. There are low-grade iron bones, medium-grade iron bones, high-grade iron bones and top-grade iron bones. Most casual cultivators can only cultivate low-grade iron bones. A small number of outstanding aptitudes in casual cultivators can cultivate medium-grade iron bones. Once discovered, as long as there is no problem with the background and the age is not too old, they will be reminded. Direct income from the outside, and the top-grade iron bones can only be cultivated by the disciples of the Chongming sect who have abundant resources and have the guidance of a teacher in many ways. As for the best iron bones, that is even rarer. Only a few rare physiques, or accidentally hitting and swallowing related treasures, can it be achieved. Either way, it means that even if you enter the Chongming sect, you will become the focus of attention, and you are expected to enter the inner door. Cough 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 cough. Wu Tingzi coughed again, looking at Pei Ling's gaze. There was a little complexity in the yin bird. If his master is still there and he meets Pei Ling, he will probably choose to take him back to Kongmingzong and be his own little brother. After all, a junior with great talent or great luck, although he will certainly share the master's attention and resources, but will also strengthen his faction, and in the long run, it will benefit more. But now, his thoughts turned, and he suddenly said, "Ahem, excellent iron bone, how did you cultivate it?" Peeling slipped off the stone wall, and the first thought was to run away. "I just wanted to turn over and sit up. I felt dizzy and had to sit on the ground. Then I realized that every time I moved, I had to spend a lot of effort, and I couldn't even stand up." Hearing this at this moment, Pei Ling was startled at first. "The best iron bone? What is the best iron bone?" But he quickly reacted, "No matter what he is best or not, the most important thing now is to hold the opponent and not immediately kill him. This fellow Taoist, you and I have never known each other. I did take your qi and blood pill just now, but you have already taught me. Now we are not owed to each other. If we shake hands and make peace, we will go our own way." Pei Ling said weakly, "If you are interested in my practice, can I also consider swapping it with you?" He silently called the system in his heart, "System. Can you change bone forging judgment so that this guy can't see it, but just follow the practice and get into trouble immediately?" System, ding dong. The intelligent comprehension system will serve you wholeheartedly. Please select the duration and click, and the system will automatically practice for you immediately. One-click hosting, worry-free training, and fulfill your dream of ascension. Pei Ling spit out blood. "I know I can't count on you." He was considering whether to pretend to use some ancient texts from the previous life to delay the exercise, but listened to Wu Tingzi sneered, "Don't pretend. What you cultivate is forging bones, not from the Chongming sect. You must be the Chongming sect." After releasing the disciples, "If I guess right, the wanted order for Kongmingzong has arrived nearby, and since you are chasing in the mountains, how can you not recognize Wu? How about the fellow Daoist?" Pei Ling frowned. The disciple from the sect of the underworld is really not easy to fool. After all, he is young and has just broken through. After lying down for a while, he has gradually recovered a bit of strength, and it is estimated that he can barely stand up. But it's still difficult to run, it's going to be a while. Thinking of this, Pei Ling thought, and said, "In fact, fellow Daoists misunderstood. Although Zhang Jingshan of the Heavy Ming sect did tell me the children of the Pei family to search for fellow Daoists, but I alone did not want to reveal the trail of fellow Daoists, but rather wanted to say, friends can escape." Seeing Wu Tingzi sneered, obviously not believing it at all, he immediately said, "Friends of Taoism know that Zhang Jingshan has a screen, which is an ordinary thing at first glance, but there are hundreds of beauties in it. Yanbone Rakshasa picture." Wu Tingzi blurted out before he finished speaking, and said suspiciously, "How do you know this?" "No, you have seen this picture, but you are not dead yet." Pei Ling's heart sank. It seems that the screen is more tricky than expected. At the moment, I didn't think much about it, and quickly said, "I'm an offspring of the Pei family in Luquan City. Because my biological mother died young and I have good aptitude. Settling down in Pei's guest house, it is rumored that this person is rich in wealth, which is not comparable to Pei's family. I heard someone say that he was away from home for 3 days and he was not in the house, so I had the courage to go to his room and have a look." Hearing this, Wu Tingzi's gaze suddenly became very weird when he saw him. "You, a little monk who practiced qi in the back country of the tiered area, dare to steal Zhang Jingshan's things." Wu Tingzi was even confused for a moment. He stayed in the sect for too long, so he didn't know that the monks outside were so fierce. Compared to Zhang Jingshan's stolen residence and still being kept in the dark, he unexpectedly felt that having just been robbed of 3 qi and blood pills in person, it didn't seem to be a big deal anymore. In short, Zhang Jingshan has not discovered this so far in order to hunt down fellow Daoists. Pei Ling coughed dryly, "So I am the one who most hopes that fellow Daoists will be safe and even escape from life. After all, there is only Dao friendship. All right, it can hold Zheng Jingshan and fight for more opportunities for me to escape thousands of miles away with time. He put out his most sincere tone, "Friends of Taoism, I'm actually here to help you." Wu Tingzi raised his head and laughed, "Help Wu? How to help?" He snatched Wu's qi and blood pill as soon as he met, and made Wu crawl like a worm for a long time to retrieve his medicine bottle. "Friends of Daoist, these are all trivial things," Pei Ling said sternly. "At that time, I was victimized by Yanbone Raksha too. If there is no qi and blood pill, I am afraid that it will have been accidental. In that case, Daoist is alone here, life the land is unfamiliar. Sooner or later, I will find out for my Pei's children and report it to Zheng Jingshan. Can such a fellow Taoist have a good end? Now you and I are actually people on the same boat. Well, my breathing has become much smoother, and I should be able to get up and walk a few steps, but I don't know how long it will last." Peeling hesitated and looked at Wu Tingzi in a pique. Seeing that the other party bowed his head as if he was thinking, he didn't mean to be troubled. "You kid, you have sharp teeth. But there are some truths, life and death are at stake, and the rest is small." Wu Tingzi pondered for a moment, smiled coldly, and suddenly said, "Do you know why Zheng Jingshan wanted to hunt down Wu?" Pei Lingba didn't talk much, and hurriedly said, "I would like to hear the details." Cough cough cough. Wu Tingzi coughed again, swallowing a pill by wiping blood stains on the corners of his lips, and continued calmly, "Mr. Wu is the elder of the Chongming sect. The monk of the Dan stage, at the outer sect of Chongming Zone, was originally considered free and easy. It is just that the master has a firm heart and intends to attack the Yuan Ying stage. Not long ago, the master obtained a superior exercise by coincidence and planned to change. Originally, this was a good thing." When he said this, his expression darkened. Unexpectedly, Lu Xian, the 3 disciples accepted by the master, was a secret room placed by the opponents. He secretly leaked the news when the master was weak in turning to cultivation, so that the master was in the retreat was attacked and died on the spot. The rest of the matter will be a matter of course. The Chongming sect originally emphasized the weak and the strong. If the elder Luo is still alive, and his conversion is successful, then of course everyone in his line is very happy. However, he died and the disciples under his knees had not yet grown up, which was not enough to protect the interests of his line. So other elders from the outer sect of the Chongming sect, and even inner disciples like Zheng Jingshan, swarmed up to share their resources. Wu Tingzi was the disciple recently accepted by Elder Luo. He was also the weakest. He didn't even know about the master's retreat. After Elder Luo died, all parties took the initiative to flee in a hurry. Also because of the weakest strength, everyone didn't care about him, and he actually lived to the end. Unexpectedly, the Chongming sect is known as the Holy Sect, so it's so nasty in private. Pei Ling said awe-inspiringly, "Thank you, Dai Wu, for telling me that I originally had a longing for the Chongming sect, but now it seems that it is a tiger's den and wolf den. The elder in the door is really disgusting." He said this sincerely. After all, he was mixed with the elders of the outer gate of the Chongming sect, and he was still living so precariously. The demon sect is the demon sect. This ghost place is so unfriendly to the people of Godaozhong. He just wanted to fly away immediately. But before he ran off, he had to figure out one more thing. By the way, dare to ask fellow Daoists, what's the problem with Zheng Jingshan's picture of the gorgeous bone Rakshasa? Have you taken any natural treasures in the past? Wu Tingzi asked instead, or is there something very unusual in your body? Pei Ling's heart moved. I was suppressed by my stepmother since I was a child. Even if I have the talents and treasures, where can I get it? As for people with very abnormal bodies, I don't know what your friends are talking about." Wu Tingzi heard what he said, and felt that this kid 80% had a special physique, and jealousy flashed through his heart, and said lightly, "This is hard to say. Zone's record may not be complete. But when you come from a small border area like this, you are in such a dilemma that you need to be brave enough to steal Zhang Jingshan's things. The picture sucks. He explained, the picture was accidentally obtained by Zhang Jingshan from a site when he was on mission. It is said to be quite weird, and there were even disciples in the later stage of the foundation building. But based on your cultivation base, since I have seen that picture in person, I must have been eyeing it by it. Generally speaking, unless Zhang Jingshan takes the initiative to untie it for you, since Yanbone Rakshasa has remembered your breath, it will follow you and your spirit. Anyway, Wu hasn't heard of it. The monk who was targeted by Yanbone Rakshasa too after the qi refining period can escape the catastrophe. Seeing Pei Ling's face gloomy, Wu Tingzi's thoughts changed, and he said, "No, there is one. He is also a disciple of the Chongming sect. He has been away for a short period of time and spent a full year and a half before returning to the mountain gate. At this time, Yanbone Rakshasa was too hungry to bear it, so he turned to look for it. When the next goal was reached, it was abandoned." "Thank you, Daoist Wu." Pei Ling was suspicious of his remarks, and was muttering to herself, when Wu Tingzi suddenly smiled and said, "Boy, since you and I have to avoid Zhang Jingshan, how about Wu and you making a deal?" Pei Ling was wary in her heart, and said on the face, "I don't know what the transaction is mentioned by your friend. This is the technique that Master Wu intends to change." Wu Tingzi took out a jade slip, shook it in front of him, and said, "It's also because of the relentless pursuit of Qi practice monk Wu by Chongming Zone. To be honest, Wu Mao is already exhausted, and if you can help Wu escape from Yuanma Mountain, this exercise will be copied with you. How about it?" Ding dong! Pei Ling was about to speak, when a system prompt suddenly came from her mind. "I found an unfamiliar exercise method from the outside world, the system is collecting. I'm gonna. There is such a good thing?" Pei Ling was overjoyed, for fear that after Wu Tingzi took it back, the system would not be able to record it, and quickly said, "It turns out that this is a jade slip. This is the first time I saw it, Wu Daiyu. How do you use this jade slip?" Wu Tingzi was dumbfounded, and a touch of unnaturalness flashed across her face. "When you and I are born, Wu will naturally teach you. Why, don't you believe Wu?" No, Wu Daiyu misunderstood. Pei Ling racked his brains to delay time. "It's just that I have never seen Yujian. By the way, Wu Daiyu, where do you think we will go after we escape from Yuanma Mountain later? The direction is more appropriate. To be honest, I have grown up and have not left Luquan City. If I need to travel thousands of miles away, I really don't know where to go." Seeing that he did not pursue the jade slip, Wu Tingzi secretly breathed a sigh of relief, put the jade slip away, and said casually, "When the time comes, go west first. Then Wu will tell you." Pei Ling watched his movements and was very anxious. She was looking for an excuse to let him put away the jade slip slowly. Fortunately, the system ding-dong at this time. "The unfamiliar exercises are collected, please name the host. It's called Wuming Cultivation Technique." At this moment, Pei Ling had no intention of naming it, so he sent the system at will, and said to Wu Tingzi, "Okay, I am familiar with Yuanmao Mountain, but you can rest assured, Wu Daiyu, I will take you out safely." Wu Tingzi listened, smiling slightly, and said weakly, "Then you'd better hurry up, otherwise Zhang Jingshan will arrive in person. It's hard to say. By the way, Wu is currently in serious injury, I am afraid I will have to bother you to help." "Wu Daiyu, don't worry." Pei Ling just recovered some strength, struggling to get up slowly, and gasped, "Everyone is my own now, and Wu Daiyu's business is mine." He stood up with a vow, moved his hands and feet a little, and felt that the problem would not be big in a short time, so he turned and ran without hesitation. Wu Tingzi. A touch of cruelty and surprise flashed across his face, and he hurriedly scattered the 5 poisonous fingers that were ready to go, and got up to catch up. Pei Ling ran deep and shallow in the strange dark corridor, secretly praying that Wu Tingzi's injury would be heavier, or simply fearing that Zhang Jingshan would not dare to catch up, but it was counterproductive. After not running out for long, he heard a rush from behind. Footsteps. Friend Daoist Wu, I'll find someone to save you. You're hurt so badly, it's better not to move. His eyes flashed, he turned his head and shouted, running faster. Wu Tingzi sneered, does Wu look like a fool? What a kid, he is so mean and vicious at a young age, he deserves to be a minion under the Chongming sect. Peeling no longer said much, and ran sullenly. But after a while, he found trouble, there was a fork in the road ahead. At the critical juncture, Pei Ling didn't think much about it, and randomly chose a windy fork to run in. Who knows, not long after entering, he heard Wu Tingzi's sneer from behind. Soon he understood the reason, it didn't take long for this fork to run, and there was a mountain wall in front of it. The wind I felt before came out of a few holes that were not much bigger than a fist. This is a dead end. Pei Ling's heart sank and turned quickly, and saw Wu Tingzi chasing after him playfully, her fingertips flashing green, and she grinned and said, "Run, why didn't you run?" Without waiting for Pei Ling's answer, Wu Tingzi had already pointed his eyebrows. Pei Ling's whole body hair was upside down, but at the moment, it stimulated the potential in his heart. He hurriedly rolled on the spot, avoiding the blow at a dangerous moment. Wu Tingzi couldn't help being dumbfounded. It's just that this person is from a large family after all, and the reaction is extremely fast. He had originally planned to stand with his hand, and quickly adjusted his posture against Pei Ling's corpse. The next moment, his fist hit Pei Ling's face hard. Boom! Pei Ling was dizzy by this punch, but she was overjoyed. He only practiced the third level of Qi and didn't learn any attacking techniques at all. If Wu Tingzi continues to use the 5 poison fingers, even if he escapes the blow he has just hit, he will die forever. Now that Wu Tingzi actually used his fists and feet, it can be seen that this person's injuries are no better than himself. He immediately circled his legs and encircled the opponent's body to prevent him from pulling away and using other methods. At the same time, he raised his right fist and slammed it against the opponent's chin. This is a full blow of the tier best iron-boned monk. If it had been before, Wu Tingzi would not have paid attention to such an attack, but now he is hurt too badly, and instead of being able to avoid it, his face was beaten. At the same time as he suddenly tilted to the side, a faint breath rose in his mouth. Asshole! Wu Tingzi's eyes were cracked, suddenly a head gavel, and he hit Pei Ling's head heavily. Pei Ling was suddenly dizzy. Wu Tingzi took advantage of the situation and got up, grabbed a stone next to him, and couldn't help but smash it at Pei Ling. Hearing the sound of the wind, Pei Ling hurriedly rolled away. At the same time, he also took a handful of dust from the ground and raised it towards Wu Tingzi's facade. Wu Tingzi closed his eyes subconsciously, but Pei Ling got stuck in the gap, rushed up and hugged his waist, and fell to the ground. Cough, cough, cough. Wu Tingzi had suffered serious injuries to his internal organs. After being hit like this, Pei Ling was pressed, and the corners of his mouth leaked blood again. He didn't know well. During the scuffle, his fingertips fumbled in his sleeve several times, and dexterously took out the projectile that he held when he was startled by the mouse a long time ago. It's just that this projectile is the master's relic delivered to him with the jade slip of the exercise technique, and it is also the last card of the master's vein. It is overkill to deal with Zhang Jingshan, and Pei Ling is just a third-tier garbage. Wu Tingzi only hesitated for a while, and there was a sudden pain in his wrist, but Pei Ling noticed the abnormality, and was beaten and kicked by him. He just grabbed his wrist and hit the stone next to him a few times. Wu Tingzi was in pain, and the projectile in his hand rolled to the ground involuntarily. He was frightened, angry, and regretful, and his heart vented, but Pei Ling was fiercely motivated. He became more brave as he fought, and immediately stood up and down, and Pei Ling seized the opportunity to throw a stone to the ground. Worrying that the guy coming out of the underworld sect would succumb to death, Pei Ling did not dare to neglect even if he felt that the other party was no longer moving. He continued to smash a dozen rocks and confirmed that Wu Tingzi's head had been stuck on the ground. The corpse was already frozen, and then stopped panting, wiped his face with lingering fears. 1. He killed Wu Tingzi. In a critical situation, Pei Ling only rejoiced for a moment, and got up in a hurry, ignoring the pain, first gave the system a 1-star negative review backhand, and then searched Wu Tingzi inside and out. Thinking of the projectile that this person was reluctant to use just now, he was also found nearby and put it in his arms. After the last corpse was destroyed, he endured dizziness and staggered away on the mountain wall. Now without Wu Tingzi's blockade, it took Pei Ling some time to finally find a path to the ground from the spiderweb-like corridor. Thanks to his father and stepmother, he had to come to Yunma Mountain to collect medicine and hunt to feed himself since he was a child, and he was very familiar with the places beyond Yunma Mountain. Slightly recognizing the direction at this moment, he quickly found a remote path down the mountain. On the way, I also met 1 or 2 of the children of the Pei family. Fortunately, he had just led the order in the main hall of the Pei mansion with them. Now, although he described it as embarrassed, he claimed to be defeated by the wild beast, and his family did not doubt it. There was even a kind cousin who threw a bottle of hemostasis to him. Pei Ling took it gratefully, and went back to the city to find the doctor with the excuse, and left calmly. After getting off Yunma Mountain, he thought that Wu Tingzi had let him go west before, and decisively chose the east. However, not long after he rushed, Pei Ling once again noticed that someone was spying on him secretly. To make matters worse, the pain in the wound on his left arm gradually disappeared and turned into numbness. There is no one in the eyes, but the dense eyes are constantly increasing, Pei Ling's pace is getting slower and slower, and his face is blue. He knew that he was in trouble. Not only did Yanbone Raksha II come to the door again, but the most terrible thing was that the place he was injured by Wu Tingzi was obviously poisoned. Pei Ling searched through what Wu Tingzi had left behind. Perhaps it was because this guy was hunted down all the way. There were not many medicines left. In the few remaining jade bottles, he knew nothing but the qi and blood pill. Know what it is. If this continues, even if he temporarily stops Yanbone Raksha II with systemic practice, he may not be able to survive. Moreover, with this mentally retarded system, the first practice took him to steal Zheng Jingshan's bone-tempering pill, which provokes Yanbone Raksha II, the second practice took him to Wu Tingzi's qi and blood pill, and after a desperate struggle, he survived. Who knows what situation will he put in this practice? Pei Ling's mind turned around, looking at the relics of Wu Tingzi in his hand, his expression changed for a moment, and when he gritted his teeth, he turned around and walked towards Luquan City. After a short while, Luquan City, Pei Mansion, Patriarch Pei Xian looked at Pei Ling, who was in ragged clothes, and described embarrassedly in front of him in surprise, "You said you found Wu Tingzi? Why didn't you send a family signal?" My nephew was seriously injured at the time. I was afraid that the signal would attract Wu Tingzi's attention. In that case, my nephew might not be able to come back." Pei Ling panted slightly, and asked in a deep voice, "Dare to ask Patriarch, where is Master Zheng? The nephew is going to tell it in person." Pei Xian's eyes flickered and said, "You have worked hard. You are not in the house now, so let me have someone take you down to heal. You will tell me where Wu Tingzi is, and I will tell Daiyu Zheng on your behalf." "That place is very complicated." Pei Ling refused. The reason why he ventured back was to negotiate terms with Zheng Jingshan face to face. How could Pei Xian be the middleman? Immediately said, "I'm afraid I'm not sure about the Patriarch. If it is time to delay the affairs of Master Zheng, it will be difficult for us to take care of Pei Mansion." Pei Xian lowered his face and stared straight at him. However, seeing that this nephew was not afraid, and even between his eyebrows, there was a sense of dying and breaking the net. His thoughts changed, and a smile changed. "It's okay. But Zheng Daiyu is indeed not in the house now. Pei Ling's heart sank after hearing this. Is Zhang Jingshan in Yuanma mountain now? That's right, so many of the Pei's children went to the mountains to search. Zhang Jingshan waited for the signal on the spot, so that it was convenient to intercept Wu Tingzi as quickly as possible. Then what would he do? His current situation is very critical, and he may not wait for Zhang Jingshan to come back. I was about to ask the Patriarch if he could immediately notify Zhang Jingshan, and how long does it take for Zhang Jingshan to return. I heard Pei Xian say, well, though Daoist Zhang went to Yuanmao mountain, but fortunately Fairy Li is still meditating in Biwa courtyard. Take you to see Fairy Li. Fairy Li? Pei Ling was stunned and immediately reacted. This should be the disciple of the Chongming sect who came to Luquan city with Zhang Jingshan, but this person is too low-key. These days, what he heard about Zhang Jingshan's deeds was a person, subconsciously. Ignore it. Patriarch. Pei Ling couldn't help asking, this Fairy Li, how is his strength and status better than Master Zhang? If it's a soy saucer, it won't help him at all, that's useless. Peeling, you remember? Who knew that the voice had only fallen, and he saw Pei Suanku's face suddenly changed, and solemnly confessed, this Fairy Li, although low-key, his cultivation status and future prospects are far from what Zhang Daiyu can compare. It's the true biography of Kongming Zong. If there is no accident, she will still be the next saint of Shenzong. When you see her later, you must be more respectful than to me and to fellow Zhang, understand? Pei Ling was overjoyed and said hurriedly, yes. And you're sure you know where Wu Tingzi is hiding, and you won't let Fairy Li run for nothing? Pei Xian seemed to be very taboo towards this Fairy Li. He had already walked forward, or he stopped worrying. Seriously warned, this is a big deal, if Fairy Li thinks our family is teasing her, it's not a joke. Patriarch, don't worry. Pei Ling said hurriedly, if there is no certainty, how can my nephew dare to deceive the Patriarch? Besides, if my nephew asks to see the immortal master of the Chongming sect, he also has something to ask for. Pei Xian took a deep look at him, go. He took Pei Ling quickly into the Biwa courtyard, but ignored the upper room in front, but went around the back from the side road. This place is the first time Pei Ling has come. After all, this kind of yard to receive distinguished guests, because of his status in the clan, has always been worn to walk around. At this moment, I was worried about my injury and the next negotiation, and I didn't want to appreciate the arrangement of the Pei mansion with great effort, but secretly clasped the projectile in the palm of his hand. For a moment, Pei Xian stopped slightly, lowered his voice and said, don't look up later, especially don't look at the wind chimes in the corner of the house. Only then did he continue to step forward, to a sacred house, and bent down deeply, Pei Xian, see Fairy Li. Seeing Pei Ling slowly followed and bowed, he frowned and scolded, Fairy, don't kneel down. Pei Ling knelt down without hesitation, and Pei Xian breathed a sigh of relief. At this moment, a cold voice with a little sullen anger came from the abode, what are you waiting for? Return to Fairy Li. Pei Xian said quickly, I didn't dare to bother easily when I knew that Fairy was repairing here. But the little nephew Pei Ling came back from Yuanmao mountain, saying that he had found Wu Tingzi's traces, and was worried that he would be surprised by the snake, so he didn't dare to send it. The family signal, originally thought that Daoist Zhang was in the mansion. Wu Tingzi. Before he finished speaking, the door of the abode suddenly opened silently, and a figure appeared in a flash, with a black dress and black shoes, wearing a veil, and the black veil like the skirt hanging around the veil, hanging straight on his chest. Can't see clearly. When Pei Xian appeared, he quickly lowered his eyebrows and closed his eyes, watching his nose and nose, not daring to neglect the slightest. Peeling's reaction was a little slower, and she gave a startled glance, only to feel that this woman has a graceful figure, especially her waist is slender, and her grip is not full, but her whole body is extremely powerful, like she is out of a famous sword, with a sharp edge. Fairy Li stretched out his hand, only to hear the sound of the wind ringing. Uncle Pei's nephew was full of chaos. When he recovered, he saw that the skull wind chime had hung on her waist, the hat was slightly slanted, and Fairy Li's side the head asked, "Where is the person?" Pei Xian looked at Pei Ling. Pei Ling settled, clenched the projectile, and said in a deep voice, "If you go back to the ferry, Wu Tingzi is dead." "What?" Pei Xian was taken aback. Fairy Li didn't care. Where is the practice? Outside the city. Pei Ling only felt that this fairy was so powerful that Zhang Jingshan could not be compared at all. At least when he met Zhang Jingshan in the main hall of the Pei mansion, although the other party was aloof, he did not give him any special feeling. But at this moment, even though he was behind the veil, he could feel that Fairy Li's eyes were like electricity. When he looked over, he felt as if he was being stared at by something extremely terrifying, and the hair on the back of his neck was horrified. He swallowed hard, forced himself to calm down, and said, "I was lucky enough to meet Wu Tingzi in a cave. At that time, he was seriously injured and dying. After a desperate fight, he was killed, and he originally planned to take all his remains. I returned to my life, but I was worried about losing it on the way, so I hid everything outside the city." Fairy Li was non-committal, and said, "What do you want?" Pei Xian stood behind her. As early as when Pei Ling claimed to kill Wu Tingzi, his head was sweaty. At this moment, he secretly breathed a sigh of relief and winked again and again to signal Pei Ling to speak for the family. But Pei Ling came back from the risk for her own sake. How could she care about him? Ignoring Pei Xian at the moment, he said solemnly, "Please help the fairy." "Help?" Fairy Li glanced at him, and said nonchalantly, "Wu Tingzi's 5 poisonous fingers are indeed not something your level of cultivation can bear." She threw a jade bottle over. "There are 3 poison pills in it, eat them all, and just meditate for a while. As for the picture of Yanbone Rakshasa," Fairy said lightly, "when I retrieve the jade slip and confirm that it is correct, I will naturally say to Zhang Jingshan's for you." Pei Ling caught the jade bottle, and before she finished speaking, she poured her mind into her mouth. She noticed that the poison that had spread to her left shoulder had indeed stagnated. He was sure in his heart and quickly said, "Fairy Xia Li. Jade Jane is outside the city. Under a small hillside, there is a sign, that is, 3 locust trees form a character shape." Having said this, his hands hidden in his sleeves squeezed the projectile tightly, holding his breath. Fairy Li didn't even look at him again when he heard the words, and with a flick of his sleeves, the person had disappeared in the blink of an eye. Pei Ling wiped away the cold sweat with lingering fears. This Fairy Li put too much pressure on him. Although from Wu Tingzi's attitude before his death, the projectile in his hand was mostly a whole card, but after facing Li Xianzi in person, he was not sure whether the projectile could threaten the opponent. Fortunately, although this fairy is indifferent and arrogant, he didn't mean to cross the river and demolish the bridge. This result is what he most expected before returning. Now it seems that it is a blessing in misfortune. "Peeling, what do you mean?" Pei Xian was relieved when he saw Fairy Li leave, and immediately sank his face, and came up and yelled, "This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. If you don't think about your family, you just think of yourself? Don't forget, the Pei family nurtured you over the years." Although Pei Ling took the poison pill, the gaze around him was like a tarsal maggot, and even intensified. Where is the mind to talk to the patriarch? Now he said, "Yes, my nephew always remembers Pei's kindness, so I am afraid that he will not be able to continue to work for the family in the future. Please rest assured, wait for Fairy Li to come back and untie the Yanbone Rakshasa for the nephew. At that time, my nephew would say a few words for the family." At the end of the word, he arched his hands towards the owner, turned and left. He hurriedly returned to his residence. His face was pale and shaky, and he forced to close the door. Pei Ling only felt that his thinking was a little difficult to move. "No." He bit the tip of his tongue vigorously, forced himself to stay awake, and said in his heart, "If this goes on, I'm afraid I won't be able to get Fairy Lee to get back the jade slips. For today's plan, we can only do the same as before, let the system practice. The problem is, he never dared to try the one-click hosting of forging Bonju. Who knew this time the system would manipulate his body to steal Zheng Jingshan or Fairy Lee? The two of them will go back to Biwuyuan in a while. At that time, they just ran into him stealing something from their room and cultivating in a big way. The end of the game can be imagined. System, I want to practice. At the moment of anxiety, Pei Ling suddenly thought that now he can not only choose to forge bones. He hurriedly called out in his mind, choose nameless exercises, then select. Ding dong. The system runs quickly, the intelligent comprehension system is here to serve you wholeheartedly. One-click hosting, smart upgrade. Now start hosting training, intimate reminder, during the training, the host will lose control of the body, please don't panic. The body was taken over by the system, and the gaze of Yanbone Rakshasa quickly faded. Pei Ling secretly breathed a sigh of relief, and then watched the behavior of the system nervously. Seeing the system arranging his body into a posture completely different from that of forging bones, his Danshan spiritual power also began to operate in a brand new way. As the practice progressed, the power of the anti-poison pill that he had taken before began to play out. Pei Ling clearly felt that the toxicity of his left shoulder began to subside, and his consciousness recovered. At the same time, outside Luquan City, on the hillside beside the 3 locust trees mentioned by Pei Ling, Fairy Lee successfully found the jade slip of Wu Tingzi's legacy. There were some miscellaneous things with Yujian, but she didn't even look at it. Although Luo Jiao is only a low-grade pill, he won't be easy to look at him during the pill formation period for many years. This secret code of 6 desires can make him take a risk. Xiu must be unique. Muttered to herself in a low voice, Fairy Lee pressed Yujian to her eyebrows expectantly. However, Yujian had just touched her skin, and suddenly a beam of cold light was emitted. Whoosh! Fairy Lee reacted swiftly and immediately threw away the jade slip, but said that it was too late, and that time, Han Guang still slammed into the sea of consciousness with lightning speed. Luo Jiao! Fairy Lee was caught off guard, only to feel that his head was hit hard, and his mind was blurred. Fortunately, the wind chime rang at his waist, and the cold light shook out the sea of self-knowledge abruptly. Fairy Lee took advantage of the situation to stabilize his mind, and his eyes swept away. Although the cold light was forced out, he was suspended in the air, unable to patrol, and there was a vague face inside. It was the elder of the Chongming sect who was called Fallen not long ago. One of Luo Jiao. She looked dark and shouted, "You still have a soul here." Fairy Lee. Luo Jiao's spirit was hiding the jade slips. He didn't know the external situation. He realized that someone was trying to check the exercises. Then he took advantage of the situation. He found that it was Fairy Lee. He was surprised. What kind of identity is the fairy? Fairy Lee snorted coldly, who knows how to become an infant? Don't talk nonsense, and catch it with one's hands. I'll give you a good time. Fairy really knows how to joke. Luo Jiao said with a spirit flying in the air, I wait for the people of the holy sect, how can there be any reason to sit and wait for death? Besides, the fairy has a bright future, but Luo Mao is now desperate. The fairy really wants to risk his life. Broken the net with Luo Mao fish. If Luo Mao sends the exercises to the fairy, how about the fairy raising his hand? While talking, he rolled up the jade slip and handed it to Fairy Lee. Just as Fairy Lee's eyes fell on the slip, Luo Jiao's face was fierce, suddenly raised his head and let out a sharp whistle. Fairy Lee sneered, I've been guarding you a long time ago. She has only suffered a careless loss once, how can she underestimate the enemy at this moment? At some point, the wind chimes around his waist opened their mouths together, making a miserable howl, but there was no sound. Luo Jiao's soul body seemed to be chopped by an invisible blade, and the scream stopped abruptly. At the same time, Fairy Li's fingertips flickered with purple light, spiritual power like a snake, jumped into the air, tied to Luo Jiao. Soul-binding power. Luo Jiao went out of the same school as her teacher, and naturally knew that this technique was designed to conquer the lingering soul. With a turn of his mind, he glanced at Fairy Li bitterly, suddenly divided into two, 2 into 4, and 4 into 8, fleeing in all directions. Fairy Li was not surprised. Sen Ran shouted, "Want to escape?" She stretched out her 5 white, tender, and slender fingers, opened them in the air, and then grabbed them fiercely. Call! 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 The next moment, the wind was overwhelming, the spiritual energy was disturbed, and the surrounding sky was dark. The 5 looming fences centered on Fairy Li, suddenly erected, resembling a prison. Luo Jiao's spirit, who had been scattered and fleeing, was forcibly pulled back by the power in the dark, and couldn't help but cried out in shock, "Five-finger prisoner in the dragon prison! You have actually cultivated this magical power." Without waiting for Fairy Li to answer, he already grinned, "Since the old man must die today, you will never want to get the secret book of 6 desires." Before the words were over, the soul wrapped the jade slip for a while, unexpectedly intending to explode. Dare! Fairy Li, who is valuing the honorable status of Ming Zong, chased Luquan City from thousands of miles, so that this rumored technique can change the foundation and break the pill and give birth to babies. How can he tolerate a waste of effort? Although knowing that the spirits of the monks in the formation of pill formation blew themselves up, their power is not trivial, but they still do not retreat but advance. At the same time, the wind chimes rang loudly on her body, and layers of complex lines appeared on her fair skin. She slid out her bare hands, cut Luo Jiao's soul abruptly, and grabbed the jade slip. The moment she pinched the jade chain in her palm, Luo Jiao's spirit burst out. After a while, the small hillside disappeared. Under the hillside, there were only 3 holes left in the 3 figure-shaped locust trees as the landmarks mentioned by Pei Ling. It shows the terrible spirit of the monks who blew themselves up during the pill formation period. Cough, cough, cough. At this moment, Fairy Li slowly fell from midair. Before landing, she couldn't help coughing, and then covered her face with a sleeve, spitting out a large mouthful of blood. However, she didn't care much about her injury at the moment, and Luo Jiao had left. There was nothing that could threaten her in this little Luquan city, but she quickly checked Yu Jian's situation. I saw that even though Yu Jian was trying her best to protect her, it still split apart. Fairy Li frowned. Based on her experience, of course she knew this situation, and the inner exercises must have been affected. Although it won't be invalidated, you have to go back to the sect and find someone to fix it before you can get the secret code of 6 desires. Although it was more troublesome than expected, fortunately, the purpose of going out this time was achieved. Fairy Li coughed a few more times and put the jade slip away. With a slight movement of the black gauze skirt, he disappeared in the blink of an eye. After a while, Fairy Li suddenly appeared in the courtyard of Biwa Courtyard, just like when he left. Taking on the self-destruction of the cultivator's spirit in the pill formation stage, she galloped back to the Pei mansion. It is true that she is also considered a top genius disciple in the Chongming sect. It was another cough just now when he landed. With a wave of his hand, he hung the wind chime back into the eaves and walked quickly into the abode. Immediately afterwards, the door of the abode closed automatically without any wind. In the aboriginal house, Fairy Li fell to the cloud bed and took a pill to treat her injuries. She hurriedly stabilized her injury and went back to Kongmingzong to find someone to repair Yujian. She had forgotten about Pei Ling. After all, she was just a small offshoot of Pei Mansion. Pei Hongnian, the son of Pei Mansion, is not a dog in front of her? No, it's not as good as a dog. After all, Zheng Jingshan is a serious dog. But Pei Hongnian was at most a dog for Zheng Jingshan. As for Pei Ling, in Fairy Li's eyes, even Pei Hongnian is not as good as Pei Hongnian, so why bother? So even if this person died under the Yanbon Raksha map due to her negligence, it can only be said that Pei Ling was supposed to do so. What does it matter to her? At this moment, Pei Ling also forgot Fairy Li. When he was feeling the new practice method of the new Gong laws and regulations, suddenly, the system Ding Dong said, "It has been detected that the nameless Gong method is a double cultivation method, and it needs the talent of a Taoist companion. Continue to practice." Peeling. Ding Dong. The system mechanically said, detecting the host lacks a Taoist companion, the system will give a free Taoist companion. The next moment, Pei Ling watched as his body stopped practicing, grabbed the projectile next to him, then stood up, strode over to open the door, and ran out at a speed far exceeding his current cultivation base. System. Pei Ling was about to explode, and he kept yelling in his mind, "How quickly do you stop for Lao Tzu? Do you know where this is? It's not Lao Tzu who can be the priest here. S sister is the woman of Lao Tzu's brother and uncle." He finally realized that if this mentally retarded system does not kill him, he will not give up. Just when Pei Ling was racking his brains to think about how to deal with the aftermath of being found by the family, he discovered something that made him horrified. He went to Biwu Yuan again. He entered the Biwu Academy. He ignored the upper room in front and the inverted seat where the maid lived, but followed the route when Pei Xian brought him here before, and went straight to the backyard abode. Outside the abode, the wind chimes on the eaves suddenly rang out. Fairy Li in the room noticed, frowned slightly, and felt a little bit, and found Pei Ling rushing towards her. Almost forgot. Fairy Li was a little dazed. She had promised to remove the threat of Yanbon Raksha II on the side branch of Pei when she got the jade slip. Just because she was busy unlocking Luo Jiao's ban, she ignored the matter. Rear. Now Pei Ling broke an unruly and slammed the door, presumably he couldn't hold it anymore. Thinking of this, Fairy Li temporarily stopped healing and said, "This seat." However, before the voice was over, the door of the abode was suddenly kicked open. Immediately afterwards, Pei Ling's eyes were filled with anger, but his face was calm and unwavering. Fairy Li only said that he was in danger at this moment, so that he would do such a rebellious thing. He smashed a projectile at her facade. The projectile party had already exploded into powder with a bang in the air, and instantly enveloped the entire room. Qi Ju Zhen Hun San. Fairy Li was shocked. This was Luo Jiao's trump card. He thought that he had been consumed by his disciples when he fled, and fell into the hands of Pei Ling. If it were normal, these methods would naturally not hurt her, but not long ago, in order to preserve the Yujian of the secret of 6 desires, she had just assumed Luo Jiao's spirit to explode, and her body and soul were hurt badly. At this moment, I was weak, and I thought that Pei Ling came to ask for help. He didn't expect that a small third-level Qi training in Pei Mansion dared to attack himself. Fairy Li's eyes flashed with fright and anger, but he didn't even have time to say a word, so he fell softly. The system immediately stepped forward, pulled her up from the ground, raised her hand to tear off the drapery, revealing a face with soft jade flowers and snow-skinned lips. At this moment, the eyebrows were filled with amazement. "Damn it! Is this down?" Pei Ling thought he would be slapped to death with a palm, who knew that the system would succeed in one blow. But this is not the point is... Are you special about the system? He didn't know if the system was crazy or not, anyway, he was going crazy. How did Pei Xian introduce this fairy a long time ago? If there is no accident, Shengzong will be the next saint. Saint? Is this something he can touch? Wu Tingzi just took a copy of the jade slip, which belonged to his master, and ended up with a dead body. He moved the next saint of Kongmingzong. May I ask, how many copies of his ashes are better? No, can he still have ashes? Ding dong. The system is the same as before, ignoring the host's madness, dragging Fairy Li to throw on the cloud bed, stripping off the black gauze skirt on the other side, and then issuing a prompt sound, "Dao Lu, the gift is over, now continue to practice. Immediately afterwards, Pei Ling's body was under the glaring gaze of Fairy Li, and he leaned down and pressed. At this moment, his mood is desperate. Can Lao Tzu's identity as a man in Go De Ozhong be preserved? When the cloud bed was swaying in the abode, Zhang Jingshan hurriedly returned to the Pei mansion. He first went to the main hall to find Pei Xian. Wu Tingzi found it. Where is the person? What about the thing? Friend Zhang Daoist is not anxious. Pei Xian was talking to a woman, and after hearing that, he winked at the woman, smiled and stood up to greet him, and explained, Wu Tingzi is already dead. As for things, just according to my children as said, Fairy Li walked in person and took them all back. He was afraid that Zhang Jingshan would forget his previous promise. It's just that Fairy Li went directly into Biwa courtyard after returning, but didn't mention the bone-tempering pill. Here are 50 bone-quenching pills. Zhang Jingshan heard the words, threw out a jade bottle and said, I will go to see the senior sister. He turned and walked away. Patriarch, these are all obtained by our Pei Ling. The woman rolled her eyes and hurriedly walked over to remind her, when assigning, don't forget to give 2 or more. Pei Xian collected the jade bottle and hummed, you mentioned Pei Ling, I called you here, just about to talk about it. How did you teach this child these years? At the critical moment, I don't know at all for the family. He has another chance to meet Li Xianzi. Go and talk to him. Let him think less about himself and think about Pei's family. He is a child of Pei's family, and Pei's family is better. Isn't it good for him? The woman was Pei Ling's stepmother, and her eyes lit up. Is Fairy Li a reward for Pei Ling? I don't know about this. Pei Xian said lightly, my dignified patriarch, can I still covet something from a younger brother? I know. The woman sneered and said, Patriarch, rest assured, if Pei Ling hides something privately, I will make the child sensible. It's just that I have put so much effort into my family. Pei Xian nodded, I will let Liang teach him more. When they were discussing, Zhang Jingshan had already returned to Biwu Academy. He went first to see senior sister, but before approaching, he heard the wind chimes under the abode, and the sound was rolling. Zhang Jingshan could not help but dizzy. He knew that senior sister was the magic weapon of his life. It was so terrible that he didn't dare to approach, but he bowed far away and said, Senior sister. After a while, there was no response in the abode, but the skull on the wind chime became more irritable, and the soul roared and wandered, restless. Zhang Jingshan held on for a while, only to feel annoyed in his chest for a while, and he was about to vomit blood. He couldn't support it, he hesitated, and said, Senior brother retires for the time being. Come and listen to the senior sister's instructions later. He stepped back, far away from the abode, and finally took a sigh of relief before returning to the house where he lived. Only when I got to the door, I felt something was wrong. This door was opened openly. Because the senior sister didn't like to disturb, he drove away all his servants after living in Biwa courtyard, and only asked them to clean up the courtyard when he left. As for the house, it is absolutely forbidden to enter. Pei mansion up and down, forgiveness did not have the guts to defy his orders. And when he left before, he clearly closed the door. What is going on at this moment? Zhang Jingshan's heart was guarded, and he squeezed the Dao Faju before stepping into it slowly. When he finally entered, he was stunned by the rancid smell coming on his face. He didn't dare to neglect, so he quickly searched to make sure that there was no one, and then he carefully looked at the place where the smell was coming from. From Zhang Jingshan's experience, he quickly recognized that this was when someone practiced in his room and broke a small realm, so there was a peculiar smell and traces, and he couldn't help being furious. He immediately asked Yang Rakshatu, who broke in when I was away. In the picture of Yanbone Rakshasa, hundreds of beauties covered their mouths and snickered. For a time, the room only heard the sound of hee-hee. It seemed far and near, and it seemed real an illusion. Zhang Jingshan listened carefully and couldn't help nodding. For a moment, he showed a hideous expression. The mere child of the Pei family, dare to be so presumptuous. It would be too cheap for him to only make blood food. Wait, I will go and peel him. After speaking, I didn't care about taking a rest, and left in a rage. And at this moment, the hurried wind ringing suddenly stopped in the abode in the backyard of Bihui Yuan. Immediately, it rang like a torrential rain hitting bananas. On the soft couch, Su was due to the unknown technique. Pei Ling was originally full of panic. With the practice of the system over and over again, the sensory stimulation gradually made him too busy to take care of him, and his whole body and mind was invested in the joy of double cultivation. At the same time, the limbs and hundreds of skeletons are constantly injected with a strange force. Not only did his injuries when he and Wu Tingzi were fighting each other quickly healed, even the third level of qi training that he had just broken through was growing rapidly. Pei Ling was completely addicted, completely ignoring the shock and anger in the eyes of Fairy Li under him, selflessly enjoying the pleasure of putting this quasi-saint at will. As his cultivation deepened, soon, the killing intent in Fairy Li's eyes suddenly appeared shaking and perplexed. Although it was only a short moment, there was a huge wave in her heart, and her eyes were full of anger. It's just that Pei Ling has already entered a state of total selflessness and doesn't care at all. After a long while, the outside wind bell gradually became low, and Pei Ling's ear finally heard a ding-dong. This training has been completed. Thank the host for using the intelligent training system, One Key Hosting, soaring worry-free. Looking forward to your sharing cultivation evaluation. Please give 5-star praise if you are satisfied. He instantly regained control of his body, and recovered from the dying practice, raising his head just to meet the eyes that Fairy Li was about to smash the corpse. Peeling. Too late to explain, run away. Immediately. Immediately. Now. However, at this moment, there was a sound of footsteps from outside, followed by Zhang Jingshan's voice. Senior sister, Pei Lingu, a child of the Pei family, was so timid. He even sneaked into my room to steal the dog while I was out. This person has now escaped in fear of crime. Sister hasn't given any instructions for the time being. I plan to take a trip in person to get her skin cramped, so as to prevent her from doing something like this. Peeling, am I special?